Now though, if we look, and I wanted to say, hey Teresa, I think Teresa in here. She's a follower of yours.
Teresa who?
Teresa Bucoli.
Big, okay. Hi,
Yeah,
Teresa.
yeah, Teresa in this
Fine.
thing. uh,
Teresa left my class because she got upset with me.
it's
She got
okay.
upset with me because she thought I interrupted her a lot. But
It's
it's my
okay.
process to try to make sure I understand things as they go so that I don't lose the fragments as they go by.
Hey, I'll tell you this much. She never said one bad thing about you. Okay.
Well, I
So if
I
that
never
says
said
anything,
she treated it personal. I'm
yeah.
just saying that she that was an aspect of my class she disliked, is that I tend to interrupt when you're making statements that I need clarification on before I can fully understand either what you're trying to tell me or ask. So that's why I tend to interrupt you guys a lot when I say, wait, I need you to clarify something for me here.
And that's cool. Yeah, we don't get offended like that over here at all, bro. We're not
Well,
fluffs.
I didn't say it offended her either. I just
Oh,
she
okay.
made the statement that I don't like being interrupted, so I assume that's why she's not in there anymore.
Okay, so oh man, where was we at? We was just on.
But I like
Okay,
her
what
and I like her in what she's making every effort to do. Okay. And I
yeah.
praise her for her willingness to do it and her efforts in doing it. Because
Oh yes.
I do follow her videos on YouTube whenever I can come across them that shows whatever progress she's currently up to. So good
Who are you
going in that
talking to?
aspect, Teresa.
Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
now what I wanted to say, someone here got a question. Let's ask this when I got comments on it. So they said Danny G says, what about rescinding the presentment or ticket within 72 hours, meaning sending the ticket into the court saying no contract?
Again, not the same thing. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, Administrative proceedings are a different animal than criminal proceedings. And
Right.
in criminal proceedings, I don't need a contract to charge you with a crime. I don't need your agreement to charge you with a crime. I don't need a consensus to charge you with a crime. Okay. I don't need something in writing that you agreed that you committed the act of burglary of a habitation to charge you with burglary of a habitation. And I don't need a consensus from you that you are required to appear in court to answer to that allegation because it's a crime. Now, the administrative part has its own adverse aspect of that, which is they don't need you there to find you guilty or liable in that case. You have to remember that an administrative proceeding does not require your presence to proceed. They can rule against you whether or not you're there, and they can find you liable for whatever penalty they assess to whatever allegation was made against you. And you have no recourse but to accept it or appeal it. Okay. So that signature on the promise to appear is simply that. It's a promise to appear that is non-rescindable because there are consequences for not making the appearance you promised to make, regardless of whether or not you claim to have rescinded your signature. And that is, in the administrative side, they're going to get a judgment against you by default. And on the criminal side, they're going to issue a warrant because you failed to appear to answer for the allegations being made.
All right. This is gonna be my last question for you, me personally, and then if it's okay, I'll open up the floor for a little bit and let some people ask their own personal questions. Don't make them long, y'all. You can't go all day with your questions. There's a lot of people in here, so try and formulate your question into something that can be concisely answered, okay, by Eddie. My last question is gonna be to you though. Well, first off, I want to say thank you. I really appreciate you, bro. Like you have no clue. I've been watching you for so long, man. I've listened to your videos for so many times.
Glad to be of
Oh,
help.
yeah, man. You're a blessing. The true OG Godfather. So of traffic. But I also want to say you've done so much for everybody to get a great understanding and comprehension of traffic law, but we also see that you do a lot in other aspects of law, right? Um, what is the big what are you working on right now? What have you been working on? Do you want to let us know about anything on just that's different in relation to traffic law that's been pretty amazing or
Well,
something? You know?
right now I'm in the process of writing my new seminar material, which has been years in the making compared to the first one. The first one I had to write the entire thing in 2 months, 400 plus legal pleadings and a book, completely out of memory, and put it all down so that the folks at Rule of Law could do a traffic seminar over it. The second one I've been working on for years, and it's very difficult to do when you're doing everything solo, because the way that laws are enacted, there will be changes that take effect at different points throughout the year. So something that was this way when you started writing about it is now this way by the time you get to this part of it. And I have to go back and fix that and blah, 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 blah. And it's an ongoing, continuous process. I have no assistance in getting it done any faster. So it's taken years to get done because it keeps shifting. But that said, part of what I'm doing with that is writing all new legal pleadings and an all new book, of which this document I gave y'all in the chat is to be a part of. And I'm also writing a lawsuit that allows us to sue the judges and the prosecutors for their failure to comply with the Code of Criminal Procedure, and that failure resulting in our due process rights being specifically violated intentionally by the judge and the prosecutor. And remember, when they do it in violation of law, they do not have immunity. And that's the key to this lawsuit. We are going through every step of the statute, showing exactly what that judge or prosecutor is required to do by law. And it's absolutely non-discretionary, meaning it's not optional, and they don't have any discretion in how and when they do it. They must do it the way the law said do it, when the law said do it, and they failed to do that. And in so doing, open themselves up to this lawsuit because they violated our substantive right to procedural due process. And thus, they're liable for it. So I'm writing a lawsuit that we file as the very first thing relative to the case. And we do not file it with the court that we're being prosecuted in. We file it with a state court where we're going to file the lawsuit. And then we file a separate one in a federal court for a federal lawsuit. So we're suing them twice. Once at the state level and once at the federal level. Okay. And they can be sued in both places because they are separate jurisdictions with different authority over the violations of law they committed.
Okay.
Okay. And that is something my co-host Randy tried to do with his ungodly, unwieldy, incoherent lawsuit.
Now.
He said, now.
Don't get me wrong. I love Randy to death, but if you take a lawsuit or documents from Randy, you damn well better know what the hell you're doing, and you better vet them religiously.
Yeah.
Because Randy's purpose and manner of doing them is not at all the manner and purpose for which you need to be doing them most of the time. Randy's doing shit to try and make a point and educate somebody and politicize the process. I'm not. I'm writing this as an actual lawsuit with financial repercussions and potential professional repercussions.
You know, one thing I want to mention before I open up the floor, because I need to go pee. But one thing I want to ask before I go to the restroom is, I know you know about you gotta know what's going. I don't know. Maybe you don't know. You know, you've heard about what Denny, I got you, brother. You'll be able to come up here in a second. You can lower your hand. So you heard about what's going on right now in Nevada, right?
Well, there's lots of shit going on everywhere. Could you be a little more
Well,
specific?
okay.
There's gambling going on in Nevada. There's
Yeah, I
prostitution
know. I'm
going
talking
on in
about law.
Nevada.
I'm talking about law. Okay, that 11.5 million acres, the Michael Little Bundy thing.
Oh, are you talking about the Bundy Ranch thing?
Well,
Went
okay,
on
check.
several years ago, or that is still
Okay,
going
well,
on now?
it's related, because what ends up happening is Mike Little and some of their attorneys that were doing all the research work on them and getting them out of the federal prison, Michael Little ended up doing the research behind the aspect that the Hoover Dam was not owned by the federal government or Nevada. right? And so they found a receipt showing that the federal government ended up paying for that land, showing that they didn't own it when they stated they did. So they went deeper into it and they ended up finding out that there's 11.5 million acres that was ceded both by the federal and Nevada, and that nobody had claimed it for the past 167 years. Well, they start bringing forth the complaint, and they end up, killing Michael Little. He's gone. They killed him, poisoned him. He just one day got sick, went to the hospital, and now he's dead. But they still brought forth the complaint, and I just got the complaint sent over to me by another, I guess, higher up guy that's above me a little bit, knows a lot more. And this complaint, they've already Michael Little's already claimed that 11.5 million acres of land, right? It's apparently his by proper claim, but because it was ceded, nobody truly owned it. But they killed him, and then they put out the complaint, and in the complaint they got a relief requested in two different aspects. Once for 10 trillion into Michael Little's trust fund, and then the other 10 trillion into the People's Bank of Nevadans, because it's
Okay.
all apparently Clark County's all built on fraud based on
Right.
the
Well, to
aspect.
answer your question, no, I have not seen that lawsuit, nor have
Yeah,
I seen or heard anything relating to this particular aspect of what was originally the Bundy case.
yeah, okay. Yeah, it's a good read. I can probably send you over. I got the complaint. I can send it over to you
Yeah,
via
if you
email.
got the complaint, I'd love to read it.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not like
beautiful,
I
bro. It's
spend
crazy.
time doing anything else these days.
I'm telling you, watch out. You're like me, bro. Straight geek. Okay, I'm gonna open up the floor. Y'all be nice. Okay, it's
I
gonna be.
got I,
It's
I
gonna. I'm
got
gonna.
one for you.
Okay, hold
Or
on.
don't be nice, but be aware I'm the last guy in the world you want to get into that kind of verbal
This is
altercation with.
Okay,
this
I'm
is a
opening it
simple
up.
one. This is a simple one. Your script is very good for criminal and in Texas, but what about the states that are civil and your script really doesn't apply specifically for those states that was the civil and administrative? Is there a script that works?
Well, administrative is civil. Okay.
Yes,
Uh,
I know, but it's not criminal.
right.
And
And
script is
to
pointed
answer the
toward.
question is there is no direct way to do it other than making the script about not being subject to the administrative regulations they're accusing you of violating. That's where personal and subject matter jurisdiction comes into play. See, the one for the criminal stuff is all about the criminal rights that you have that the state's required to abide by. Well, the same thing in relation to administrative and civil proceedings is they must prove that you are someone who is either A, subject to them, B, is liable for any infraction thereof, and C, that they have jurisdiction over you in order to apply it to you. Now, in an administrative setting, that would mean that they have to prove that you had some nexus with the thing being regulated and offer up that evidence. Okay, they still have to prove their case, they just have to prove it differently. But it makes what you do on the side of the road very, very different. And that is, do not open your mouth in a way that creates the nexus they're looking for. Okay, you can deny being subject to it, you can deny having anything to do with it, and you can deny the jurisdiction to hold you liable under it. Okay, just make sure that you say it correctly and you know what you're talking about when you say it. Don't say any more than you have to. And if nothing else, if you don't know what to say on the side of the road, then put it in your written documents when you go to fight it. But procedurally, they are very different animals. Hence the reason the script that wouldn't apply in those states. Now, I know that's not an answer you probably wanted or think helps you, but in civil administrative proceedings, there isn't a lot that's going to help you when it comes to the roadside stop. The place where you can be the most effective in those instances is when you appear before that administrative hearing officer, who isn't actually a judge 99.9 times out of 100.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Um,
Anybody can hear you. At least this anybody can.
okay, can I ask you who you are and what your name is so I can study you? I'm the first time I've been to one of these conferences, or even I'm so new at this that I didn't even know how to get on this platform. And
Yeah, my name is Eddie Craig. I'm a co-host on a show called Rule of Law Radio. And I and my co-hosts and colleagues work to create, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, legal reform in the judicial and criminal areas of law within the state of Texas.
awesome.
And so we help people with, in many ways, we help people with individual cases where we can. And we talk about the law and the remedies available to us on our radio shows. And like I say, then we write material and provide training classes and things like that to help people learn how this procedure works and what to do with it.
Yeah, Gary, I'm really amazed that you haven't heard of Eddie, just due to the fact that he's like the godfather of travel, man. He's been all over. Hold on. He's been all over. He's been all over InfoWars several times on Alex Jones' show. He's down in Texas holding it down. Like, dude's been around for a long time. He's like an OG of this, man. And one more question I wanted to ask you real quick, Eddie, before we get on to some others too, is so Nevada this past year enabled the decriminalization of all laws in Nevada itself as far as traffic, right? As far as taking people's car and all that aspect. What we have on the back end is we have a traffic law reform petition that we've developed. We got like over 600 signatures now on that reform. And what we're going to start trying to do is reform just like Nevada did within our own states individually. What do you think about that? And do you think it's a feasible
Well,
thing
if
to
they're
do?
taking it out of the criminal realm, what realm are they moving it into?
Back into statutory administrative courts.
Exactly. Are those better places to be than the criminal courts or not?
Well, most definitely, I would think so.
Why would you think that?
Well, just due to the aspect that it stops all kind of penalizing as far as the theft of private property, because a lot of people don't even know their
Yeah,
basic
but it
rights.
also throws all of your constitutionally protected due process rights right out the fucking window. The due process rights you have in criminal proceedings do not exist in administrative proceedings. You are aware of that, correct?
Learning that now. I knew enough just to get in trouble.
Okay. That's the downside of what you're asking for here. Now, whether or not they could have legally taken the things they were taking under the criminal law is a different thing than whether or not they should decriminalize the act itself that they were accusing you of. If the law didn't authorize them to seize the property and they had no valid warrant to seize the property or a court order to seize the property, then the seizure itself would have been illegal.
See, but most people don't know about that. That's the problem.
Well,
that's what we're trying to create.
You think they're gonna know and understand that their due process rights do not exist in an administrative court?
I agree with you on that. I'm in agreement with you on that. I hear you. I didn't think of it in that way, and that's why I appreciate these perspectives so much.
It's a shit sandwich in one hand and a shit burger in the other.
For sure. I get what you're saying now. I hear it. I hear it.
Okay. So if you don't understand whatever side you're operating in, you're already under the bus. And the bus is traveling at high speed. Okay. So it doesn't matter which one it's in if you fail to understand the principles and procedures that go with either one.
Right.
Personally, I'm very happy that they criminalize these things in Texas, because that means there is a very clear-cut set of rules and protections that are available to me to invoke to make them stop. Okay. And I can wield it like Thor's fucking hammer because I put the time and effort into doing it.
I love it.
I think that's one of the biggest things that, is kind of transpired with everything that we got going here and why we're so happy to connect with you because you have so much knowledge. And I think all of us collectively, like one of the biggest things I kind of, I guess, instill within everything that we do is, Napoleon Hill, right?
I
The
don't know if I
author.
do or not.
Okay. Well, Napoleon Hill, he used to follow a whole bunch of people back in the day, like Henry Ford and everybody that was successful back in the day, and he would write about what made them successful. He came up with the term mastermind, right?
Right.
And I just want to ask you this, just to see where you're at. What would you define as a mastermind?
Well, again, that would depend upon the context you're putting it in. But a mastermind, by just straight up general definition, is the particular master planner of some act or scheme.
Okay. So again, you individualized it and made it into a singular person, the master planner being one. So with Napoleon Hill, how he termed the coin mastermind was a mastermind is a collective group of individuals that come together to make one mind. And so that's what I see so beneficial and what I try to keep at the forefront of everything that we do is that we all have our own perspectives. Our own perspectives and experiences allow us to grow collectively together. And without you, of course, I wouldn't be where I'm at in my life today. And I think we all have a beneficial aspect of coming together and making something beautiful. And why I think it, just this whole traffic law reform that we're really trying to do. Like this is serious. We're not playing about it. It's really getting signatures. We've really forming scripts. We're really out here talking. We've really got letters that we're about to start. Once we get to 1,000 signatures, we're sending it out to legislate. I mean, we're going for all the public servants, at least the top of the public servants, to get action and demand for change across the nation. And if I can perfect this a little bit more with you, with just some minor changes, I don't think that probably we need much. But once we get to that 1,000, that we specifically put in the right language to get what we are looking for. Now, you say we should keep it in the criminal aspect, and I agree with the perspective that you just gave me, actually. So maybe just perfecting the language in the actual petition that we're sending out would be very beneficial. But I want to get your
Well,
thoughts and just open it back up to the floor again.
personally, here's what I would do to make the change you're talking about. I wouldn't switch it from criminal to administrative or any of that shit. What I would do is move for a constitutional amendment that required the legislature to do specific things in relation to a law they're making. Not only do they have to tell us the single subject the law itself relates to, but they also have to tell us whether or not that law is meant to bind the entire public as a general law, or whether or not it is a limited piece of legislation for a specific class of individuals or things. By doing that, it removes the possibility that the courts can broadly interpret a law to encompass individuals, i.e., persons, that do not fall within the class designated by the legislature as being regulated by that set of statutes.
Now, when you say persons, though, persons is so broad.
Well,
I like to
again,
attack the aspect of how they.
persons. All right. Here's the thing you need to understand about terminology.
Yeah.
You have the layman or the common everyday English usage of terminology
Right.
versus the legal definition and use of terminology.
Right.
If the term is defined by law to mean something, then it is a 110% guarantee that that term is not being used in its normal everyday meaning and usage. Okay? If it were, there would be no need to define the term within the law, would there?
Nope, not at all.
Okay, so
see what's pretty cool. Hold on, what's pretty cool here in Washington that we got some distinction in their definitions between person and then natural person. They clearly define the two, right? So
yes.
what's really cool in that is the aspect that we can attack it just due to the fact that in blacks you got it being county, city, corporation, so many aspects in which a person is, which again leads me to believe that we can argue the aspects of what do you mean? It's there's so much ambiguity here. How am I supposed to know that it applies to me when you just say persons? You see what I'm saying? In that
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Well,
I like to argue that. That's my thing there.
The thing about the common everyday definitions versus the statutory definitions. One of the favorite ones I like to bring up is the definition of state. Okay.
Do you want to be able to share your screen?
No. I'm just looking up a document that I want to put
Okay.
in the chat for you guys.
All right.
And it's the document that I used to make that video with James.
Okay.
Let's see.
Oh, you know what? That's the one I was asking for in the comments of that video. Yeah, go ahead and throw that in here. That was a good one. Yep, go ahead and throw that in here. I was asking for that.
Yeah,
What?
that's the document that I used in the second part of that video to refute the law that they are using and citing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I think that's the latest version of it.
Oh, hey, someone said in the chat, I don't know if they're going to come on to say it out, but yeah. And he said, can you be more specific? Thanks for giving that context by asking that, Jack. So one of the guys said, Mac said, can we get clarification on plates? No context whatsoever. So Jack says, can you be more specific? And then someone said, giving the DMV plates back. What do you feel about plates? What do you use? Do you use no plates at all? Do you go not for hire on that bad boy?
I don't have state plates on my car and have not had for many, many years now. I made my own plate, but the one thing I made damn sure of is that my plate in no way whatsoever resembles the plates issued by the state of Texas or any other state for that matter. And in doing that, we prevent them from being able to charge us, like you were discussing earlier, for the guy when they're trying to charge him with fraud. Okay.
Yeah.
So
what I'll say to that then, you know, people always try to tell me and come in, I'm different. I just be free. That's how I operate. I don't really have many contracts.
Hippies say the same thing. That doesn't mean they're right.
No, yeah, I get, but what I'm saying is do you utilize trust to protect yourself, or are you just out here living free?
Explain to me why I need a trust to be who and what I am.
Hey, don't ask me to explain. I don't use it.
No. I'm whoever came up with the question. Obviously, they have a reason for asking it. Therefore, they must have some input as to why they see a trust or don't see a trust as being something to utilize. So I'm simply giving them an opportunity to join the conversation and put that before us and see what we see about it.
I don't think there's going to be anybody here to articulate it well enough to be able to support its claims.
Believe me, if I had to wait for somebody who could articulate things well enough when I'm dealing with a lot of people, I'd never get anything done. I wouldn't have any people to help either because they could never get it out. Everybody is so wrought up in what they're trying to say. They are trying to say it before they're thinking it. And that's unlike my brain, which is ahead of my mouth. Most people have a mouth that's in front of their brain, and that just comes out gibberish when that happens. And so they're very hard to follow. And I'm not trying to belittle them because of that. They just haven't trained themselves to make that reversal.
Right. I'm with you on that.
And that's why I admonish people, don't open your mouth and talk to the cops, because 99 times out of 100, you are that person with a faster mouth than you have a mind. And that's going to get you in trouble.
Okay. Now, we're almost 2 hours in. I want to see if there's any other last questions y'all want to come in and kind of talk about and ask in relation to Eddie Craig. Y'all just raise your hand and we'll kind of work through everybody as far as you can. Y'all raise your hand in the chat thing. So then view, how do we do this?
If y'all want to go longer than 2 hours, at the moment, I don't have anything pressing.
Okay, cool.
About if that's
yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, that's fine with me. See, because I'll tell you like this. We had another Wisedome meeting just the other night. What was it? Thursday night. And usually I'm pretty structured. And I keep things pretty structured. And I let it go a little bit too free. And man, we didn't help nobody at all. It got nowhere. So I'm glad I kept this a little bit more structured here so that we can actually help people. So let me get to some of these people that got their hands.
Hey Eddie, you mentioned the book, The Right to Travel, The Orphaned Right. And when I tried to search,
it's not a book, it's a PDF file.
Okay, when I tried to search for that, the only thing that I came back with was I think it was Oklahoma law.
I got it right here. I'm gonna put it right in the chat right now.
And is saying that the right to travel is debunked, that it's bogus.
The way it's being used, they would be correct. But what people actually mean and understand when they say that misleading phrase of right to travel has never been debunked, because it can't be debunked, because it's constitutionally ingrained. And there is a shit ton of case law that says so.
Right. I understand there's a ton of case law. I was just wondering if I was looking at the correct document or not.
The document that I'm talking of is in the chat now.
Now, some people, if y'all want to come on and ask about this regulation, then come up and ask. But what else you got, Denny? I'm gonna move on to Marion.
Other than that, it's like I don't want to waste a bunch of time here. I'm gonna look up his stuff and see what I can find out there before I ask a stupid question.
The only stupid question is an unasked question, unless the same question asked for the third fucking time.
For real, though. Yeah. See, I'm ignorant to a lot of things, and I don't mind stating that. Some people take ignorance as some kind of offensive thing. I'm ignorant to a lot of things. I'm learning every day. All right, Miriam,
Yeah,
if you want to unmute.
Yes. Hi, Eddie and Cameron. So my question is how an individual can navigate through this mesh of traffic stops, traffic citations, and even if they have to go to court and defend themselves, basically,
One
apart
at a
from
time.
learning. Pardon?
One at a time.
Okay. So my question is, how can I navigate through
No,
traffic
I
stops?
understand your question,
Oh, okay.
but you do it one case at a time, because every case is going to be different. It's
I
going to
see.
be a potentially different charge. It's going to be a potentially different place, a potentially different officer, a potentially different court, a potentially different judge. You can only take it one case at a time. However, the one overwhelming thing about it is that wherever you are, there is a singular set of procedures that that place is required to adhere to, whether it be a state level thing or a state plus local level thing. Okay. The state thing is always required to be complied with, and the local level thing is required as long as it doesn't conflict with the state thing. In this case, I'm talking about here in Texas, the Code of Criminal Procedure. They have to comply with the Code of Criminal Procedure in traffic cases. Absolutely must do so. And if they don't, then it's a violation of law and a violation of due process rights. Plain and simple. And that will not vary depending upon the case. All that will vary is whether or not they actually commit the violation. Hence the reason why you got to take it one case at a time. And on the administrative side, there are still rules they're required to follow. Did they? If they didn't, call them out on it, point it out. But always, whether it's criminal or administrative, what is the one rule about everything we do when it comes to responding, addressing, or arguing? What do we do it, and how do we do it?
Okay, that's something I'm trying to figure out and then study more about,
Well,
basically.
I'll make it simple. Everything you do in writing. Why? Because writing it down and filing it is the only way to make it a part of the record, a reliable part of the record. Okay? Anything else is you talking to the air if there's no court reporter or no recording, right?
Yeah.
What you said now is gone the moment it leaves your lips, and there's nothing to preserve it for posterity and the appeal. That's why we do everything in writing, to preserve it.
Okay.
Thank you. I have
Yes,
a grandson that's going to get his driving permit and driving license. Turns 15 shortly.
on purpose?
Say again?
On purpose?
He's not well educated, and he'll have pressure from his
His parents,
mother,
or
who
guardians,
will
yeah.
who will pressure him to sign his name, but I want to know if he can sign his name with the caveat of signing under duress behind it, so he can get out of it later on when he's better educated.
What is the one thing you can always use to refute the signature on any type of document?
Reserve your rights.
Signed under duress, and then there's some numbers that
What is another? Well, signed under duress means you were forced. How do you prove force in this case?
I don't know.
Right. And that creates a problem, does it? Doesn't it? How do you prove force when you don't know how to prove force or how to even allege that there was force? What force? Who took the kid down to the DPS or DMV office and held or threatened him in some way and coerced him to sign the document and get the license? Who did that?
Probably his mother.
His mother stood in line with him with a gun to his head or a knife to his throat or a threat of beating him to death when she got him home to make him get a license? Can you prove that?
No.
Can you even assert that and it be true?
No.
Okay, then we have a problem, don't we?
Yes.
So what can we always argue and almost always easily prove when it comes to a signature on a document that is being held over us or used against us?
Jurisdiction.
It's one word, starts with an F.
Fraud.
Fraud. No signature can be legitimate when the thing it is applied to had it applied because of fraud. Now, what would we say is the fraud in such a case? Let's take the incorrect but often used argument that the license is a contract. How do you prove, or what is one thing that can be used to prove fraud in a contract?
Not knowing the elements of the contract.
Well, the contract's in front of you. Did you read it? And if you didn't read it, whose fault is that? And does the fact that you signed a document you didn't read nullify your signature and allow you to claim fraud?
No.
Okay, so that argument won't work, will it?
Right. It won't work.
How about if I misrepresent something that's in the contract and don't tell you about it?
Bingo. Yes,
I
sir.
tell you something is something that actually isn't something, like what the
Full
individual
disclosure.
stock earnings are. Exactly. And that's the other aspect, is non-disclosure. Okay. So let's go back to the discussion regarding the penalty of perjury problem with signing a government document. Can you be charged with perjury when the government failed or refused to provide full disclosure about what you were signing up for when you signed that document? That's a question that needs to be asked. Did, for instance, the government tell you that in order to be a driver, you have to qualify and be this thing, doing this thing in order to be defined as such? No. Did they tell you what law you had to go read to understand that before you filled out the document? No. Did they tell you what the consequences were of claiming you were this thing when you actually were not, in the fact that you were waiving certain rights and benefits in order to exercise the privilege you're signing up for? No. I think we have a valid claim, potential claim, for fraud through non-disclosure. or misrepresentation. Because the other aspect of that is the government told me I was a driver and I took them at their word, when in fact, there's nothing in the contract that defines what a driver is. And when you look at the law says that's not what I am.
Fraudulent conveyance of language.
Is it retroactive?
How do I convey language to you?
Would the fraud be retroactive to the time when I
fraud
signed?
is fraud from the time the documents it's signed.
So when I was 15 and I signed it, does it go back?
Well, you wouldn't go back to when you were 15. You would have to go back to the last time you signed it. Wouldn't you? Because you're signing the same agreement under new terms and conditions, right? So unless you're trying to sue for fraud all the way back to when you were 15, why go there? If all you're trying to do now is get out from under, then you stick with what's current.
So that
Stick
kind
with
of,
what's happening now.
so I know you remember in Texas how they had that whole driver responsibility program, right? And
Yeah.
then there was three people, something happened, they brought forth the class action lawsuit, and right before
They
they went
still
into
have the
discovery,
driver responsibility program.
I
But
thought he repealed it.
No, the part you're talking about is the administrative fees attached to certain convictions associated with the failure to have insurance. Right? You're muted.
Oh, okay. I think so, because what I was
Yeah.
reading about was
What they repealed was the authorization for assessing administrative fees. Guess who was instrumental in getting that repealed? Why? Because I talked about that on my radio show, and then I went down and beat the living crap out of our legislators and their legal counsel over how they could assess an administrative fee as a part of a penalty, when that fee was never assessed by the jury at trial as a part of the judgment. That's punishment without judicial review. That's punishment without due process. That's unconstitutional and illegal. Somebody's got a TV or a radio playing or conversations
Hey,
going.
Giselle.
Sorry, I'll mute.
Okay, well, you want to ask a question? Come on.
Yeah, I sure did. Hey Eddie, I wanted to ask you when you mentioned that that you created your own plates. So if police officers can't pull you over because they're trying to say that you're fraudulently creating a plate that resembles.
No, they can assume such and do it. That doesn't make them right. And it means you're going to have to deal with it, but you're on a much stronger level playing field and have a stronger case when you can prove that you in no way tried to imitate a real plate.
Okay.
Especially while not operating in commerce as well.
Right.
Yeah, that's the key to everything. The plate you make cannot and must not resemble an official plate issued by any government entity.
And can they use you creating your own private plate, use that as probable cause to pull you over if you're not imitating?
Well, this goes back to the stuff I've got in that document in states where those are considered criminal allegations and the commission of crimes, as to whether or not the officer can use that plate to actually get probable cause to make an arrest. In order for him to say that plate gave him probable cause, he would have to be able to prove, at least within the state of Texas and other states such as Arkansas and Oregon and Washington, where the law is very clear what transportation is, he would have had some evidence of transportation before probable cause would have been possible. And the plate alone could not be what gave him that.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Hey, I have a question. I got pulled over
Hold on
I
real
don't.
quick. Hold on real quick. Teresa had her hand up, so let's get to
Okay.
Teresa real quick, and then we'll get to you, brother.
Hey, thanks, Cameron. So if you don't have state issued plates and you don't have a license and you're not registered, how do you get insurance?
Well,
Very
again,
land.
as long as the laws are written the way they are, you can't, because the only insurance offered is motor vehicle insurance. And a motor vehicle, by definition, is an instrument of commerce. Until they go back to old-fashioned automobile insurance that every insurer is required to provide upon request by a member of the public, you know, because you got to remember that all of the programs you're talking about, the insurance, the licensing, the registration, the inspection, all of those are federally mandated programs relating to commercial use of the roads. All of them. When they're made mandatory by the state is doing it by implementing and adopting the federal statutes and regulations. Thus, they are bound to the same subject matter as the federal laws are.
Okay, so if you're going to do this, you just have to
You're either
take
going to
the-
have to self-insure, or you're going to have to establish a communal form of insurance, which is everybody paying into a pool,
Okay.
and someone responsible for managing that pool and who is liable to the others for mismanagement of that pool. And then the question becomes, does that make the person an insurer regulable by the state and thus subject to state laws regarding same? There's all kinds of things that this gets into.
Yeah,
and
I was
don't
gonna
have a set answer for any of what you're talking about.
Hey, okay, I got something though. Check this one out. George Gordon,
Yes.
R.I.P. George Gordon, did go over the aspect of the surety bond though. And that's the way they was doing it. They was doing
A
it through the
surety bond is the same thing as being self-insured. You are responsible for any damages you cause. And if you run into someone else that isn't able to pay you, then you're responsible for the damage they cause because you have no other recourse other than to sue them. And they may not be able to give you anything in recompense for that.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, come on up, Shamar.
I have a question.
Okay. Hold on, Shamar. Go ahead.
Y'all give me one
go ahead.
second, please. Something's going on out front of my house. Hold on.
All right. Let's hope he's not getting swatted, y'all. We don't need him right now.
Don't fix it.
That suck. How y'all enjoying Eddie? It's pretty cool, huh?
I'm happy to
This
be
is a
able to listen
great
to him
show.
talk.
Man, what?
Hell yeah,
Awesome,
bro.
This the OG, bro. I'm so stoked right now. Y'all have no clue, bro.
Hey man, Islam to you to get him on here, man. Appreciate you.
Man,
He
what?
mentioned Oregon and Washington and Texas as 3 states that are similar in civil and criminal nature of. Is that correct? That Washington and Oregon are
Well,
not as innocent?
they're all pretty uniform. You know, they're all pretty uniform on the law.
No. Is Texas is the criminal process versus administrative? Is Washington the criminal versus administrative processes? And Oregon, same criminal versus administrative? Do you know? Am I making any sense in the question?
No, you're not making any sense in the question, to be honest with you. I'm getting confused.
Okay. His script is really good for Texas because the process they have to
Well,
have.
no. Stop. Well, first off, it's good for all situations because this is above the state. You see what I'm saying? Like your line of thought needs to be, I'm above the state. Okay. This is again, this whole right to travel is based on it is an occupation of life, just as much as it is to go out and freely fish in a pond, right? Because you need to
understood.
eat. Yeah.
Yes, but the process that the cop can pull you over and throw you into in Texas is the criminal process, but in other states it may be administrative process.
No, I don't think Oregon or Washington are still administrative process. They still towing cars and taking people to jail for that shit, man.
Okay,
So
here's
there are-
another way of asking that same question. I think I might be able to clarify.
Thank you.
Are traffic offenses misdemeanor fines or administrative actions in Washington?
Okay, now that is a good question because I will base this only off of my experience. Okay. And from my experience, what I have noticed is that I have never received any kind of criminal punishment, even attempted to be placed upon me, due to the fact that there is no originating contractual agreement with the state of Oregon or Washington in the first place.
Under
So
the administrative side, that goes to the nexus I was talking about.
Yeah, I think it's all about that contract that you create, man. That contract is what binds you to the aspects of being able to being able to be put in a criminal aspect.
Well, can I jump in real quick?
Yes, please.
Okay. When you say contract, stop saying that. What you have on the administrative side is a rebuttable presumption of fact. They presume A to be true until you present some evidence or assertion that A is not true. And now the burden of proof shifts back to them to have to prove A is actually true. Has nothing to do with the contract.
Okay.
Back to the question. Is Texas, are traffic offenses misdemeanor fines or administrative action?
They are Class C misdemeanors or Class A or B misdemeanors in some cases.
And is that the same in the state of Washington?
It was. I don't know if it still is.
How about Oregon?
Again, it was. I don't know if it still is.
Hey, Eddie, I got a question for you.
Okay.
I got a administrative court hearing on February 19th. I don't have a driver's license, don't have insurance, don't register my vehicle. I don't even have voter's registration. When the cop tried to run me up, he even found out, they even told him that I rescinded my license. So when I go to the administrative court, what should I be filing before I go to court? Should I be filing like
dismissal for lack of jurisdiction, no nexus?
Okay.
There is no evidence that I having entered into any nexus, commercial or otherwise, with the state or county or city of, and refute any presumption that I have so engaged and have any such nexus. That's basically just what you're saying.
Because the passport I could just use, I only use it for ID purposes.
Passport's got nothing to do with traffic allegation.
Okay.
That's what I've been trying to say for a very long time.
I should be filing for dismissal because
the difference there is what you're using.
Number. I do have a DOT number, but I didn't register it.
Well, hang on a sec. The passport is only there to show who the government believes you are. It's your identifying documents, okay? But it has nothing to do with whether or not there is a nexus for operating in commerce upon the roads as a carrier or driver / operator of a motor vehicle. Okay. Now, as far as the other thing you just said, which was what?
I have a DOT number, but I did not register it. But in the...
Then how did you get a DOT number?
They just gave
a DOT number unless somebody registered that number and shows that it was issued to you, or they would turn around and issue it to someone else, and the numbers would then be duplicated.
Okay.
So if you have a number, then yeah, it's already registered to you. So you can't say I didn't register it because you got the damn number.
Okay, so I need to get rid of the number. I need to rescind that.
Well, again, what did you get a DOT number for? To carry a certain wide load on the highways? Or
No.
did you get a DOT number
It's for not for hire. I even put it on my plate, not for hire.
Okay. Do you know what those DOT numbers were intended to be used for?
At the first, when I first studied or looked it up, I was realizing that most farmers were having it just showing that they were.
That's what it was originally for large trucks, as in semis, that were owned and operated solely by farmers to move their product to market. That's it. And because they would sometimes use it across state lines to make that movement, they got a DOT number. That way they wouldn't get stopped when they cross state lines into a different state for operating without a valid plate or a valid number. Okay. They were never meant for the general public. They were never meant for people who aren't operating in commerce at all. The very existence of the number shows that you asked for government permission to be identified in a particular way that, strictly speaking, doesn't actually apply to you.
Okay. Okay.
Why don't you ask the court what nature of the action is? What's the nature of the action?
Well, who says you can't?
No, I'm not. You can, but as far as I know, there's only two forms of criminal action under the Constitution. So, if I were to go into court, I would ask.
There are only two forms of criminal action under what Constitution?
Constitution for the United States of America. It's in the Article
Which
1.
regulates, as far as crimes, what level of government?
What do you mean, what level of government? What I'm saying is, if you go into court and you ask the judge the nature of this criminal action under what
I understand the question you're asking me. You're not understanding the question I'm asking you.
So elaborate on that.
What court are you attempting to go into?
You're going into an administrative court. An Article 1.
An administrative court at what level?
What do you mean level?
Is it a county court, a municipal court, a state court? Okay.
State court, yeah.
If it's a state court, then why are you trying to apply the criminal side of the federal Constitution to the state court?
Well, if you go into a court under say, for not having a driver's license, and you go in there, the judge is going to ask you, this is the charges. You're driving without a driver's license, right?
Okay, again, you're going off on a different tangent than dealing with what I'm putting in front of you, okay? Put down the ear of corn and eat the fucking mashed potatoes. That's what I'm serving you. We'll get back to the ear of corn in a minute, okay? Pay attention here.
Eddie, I've seen your videos, bro. I'm a fan, so
I know, and I'm not trying to be mean to you.
You're not being mean. You're having fun. Keep going.
Let me be clear with everybody. Never ever take something I say personally, because it's not intended that way
at all.
Yes, I might embarrass you, and yes, I might make you feel like I'm picking on you, but it's to get you to adhere to what I'm telling you.
Hey.
It's a way to make you understand this is a no bullshit thing here. So don't take it personal. But
Eddie,
stick with what I'm saying.
I don't.
Hold on, Eddie. Are you from Texas itself?
Yes.
Okay, me too. Y'all, my girl didn't understand this, nor did her family when I came up to Oregon and Washington. That's just how we are. It comes off offensive every now and then. You might feel as though we're making fun, but it's just what we do down south. I don't know what else to say other than that.
We say it to accentuate a point we're trying to make, that you're not following along is the basic thing of what I'm saying here. So pay attention to what I'm telling you. The federal Constitution was never meant to regulate the activities of the state, except where the 18 enumerated powers of Congress are in effect, or where the Constitution specifically made things applicable to the states. Period. Article 3 courts. Where does the federal Constitution make the state courts direct descendants of the Article 3 courts at the federal level?
Are you asking me that?
Yes, I'm asking you that.
I have no idea.
Exactly. So you're making an assertion based on a presumption that you have no authoritative source to prove.
So
that's problem number one.
So if I go into a court, say the state court, for driving without a license, and I ask the judge if it's a civil action or a criminal action, they always say it's a criminal action, but it's actually civil, isn't it?
If they're charging you with a misdemeanor?
Yeah.
Then it's not civil. But there's a different thing in play that I don't know whether or not you realize. And what they'll tell you is not always that it's criminal, but that it's quasi-criminal.
Well, when I asked the judge if it was a civil or criminal action, I was told it
They'll
was a criminal
say
action.
criminal, but then if you turn around and say, but judge, the United States Supreme Court and all law of which I am personally aware says that in order for something to actually be a crime, there must be a corpus delicti, an actual victim, i.e. injured party, making the claim of such injury. Is such a person my accuser in this case?
Well,
Is there such a corpus delicti? Well, no, there isn't. Well, then this can't actually be a crime. Well, that's because it's not a real crime. It's a quasi-criminal thing.
Right. I get that. But
okay, and that's where they'll generally go.
This is what happened to me. I'm in California, okay, in Placer County. And when I asked the judge if it was a civil or criminal action, I was told it's a criminal action. And then I said under the
What was the action?
It was driving without a license.
Well, that's a lie. All of those, unless there's prior convictions involved, those are 100% civil in California, unless they've recently changed it.
No, they are civil. They are civil.
Okay, so the judge knowingly and willfully misrepresented the nature of the proceeding. That's criminal.
Right. So
that's a due process violation because they operate under different rules.
Yeah, I totally understand that. So when they told me it was a criminal action, I told the judge the Constitution grants this court 2 different criminal jurisdictions.
And there's your problem. You're citing the federal Constitution for the authority of that, and you can't prove that authority at the state level.
Well, I wasn't trying to prove the authority. What I was asking the judge was what the nature.
No, you asserted it as a fact. Did you not?
No, I asked if what I did was I said the Constitution grants the court 2 different criminal jurisdictions.
That's a statement of fact. That is not a question. That's a statement of fact.
Well, it is, because
what is the problem with statement of facts in courts of law? You bear the burden of proof.
Right. And the Constitution for the United States of America, it has it written in there. What I'm asking though, because
but what he's saying is
courts.
But what he's saying though is if you flip the script and allow to keep the burden on them, it's much easier for you. Don't you get what he's trying to say? He's just trying to say flip it a little bit.
Okay, so,
no, I'm not talking to you, Eddie. I'm talking to Banger.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking to Banger. I'm saying Eddie's trying to have you flip the script to say, don't put that burden upon yourself. Make them do all the fucking work. It's so easy for you to do so.
Right. But hold on. This is all I'm saying. When I approached the judge with that question, and I said, one is a criminal jurisdiction under the common law, and the other is a criminal action that constitutes a condition of contract under the criminal aspects of a colorable admiralty jurisdiction. And under which one of these 2 jurisdictions does this court intend to try this criminal action? They dropped the case, and it's happened 3 times in a row.
But here's
just
the
off
thing.
That one question.
But here's the thing. Okay. What you're arguing, I'm not saying that's wrong. What I'm saying is that what you're citing as the authority for that argument is what's wrong. The states have the same requirements when it comes to criminal prosecutions as the federal government does. But that's created by the state constitution and the state laws, not the federal constitution. The only thing that binds the states in regards to the criminal action is the minimum due process requirements established by the federal courts and federal law and the federal constitution. What you're talking about is 2 very different animals. The criminal jurisdiction of the federal courts versus the criminal jurisdiction of the state courts, or the ability, I guess, to clarify what either is. There are crimes that exist at the state level that do not exist at the federal level, and vice versa, right?
Right.
So you can't say that the criminal jurisdiction of one or the other is always applicable to one or the other. It may always be in one case and never in another, and vice versa, right?
Well, that's the question I asked the judge. They got flustered. The judge got flustered, looked at the DA.
Because that's what you said. What you said about the Admiralty is actually administrative. It's not Admiralty, it's administrative. And because it's administrative, That's what makes it quasi-criminal. And for the administrative, that goes to what I said a while ago about they must prove nexus. They can't prove a nexus between you and the administrative acts and regulations they're attempting to make you adhere to. They have no jurisdiction to proceed. Therefore, they must dismiss. Okay. That's the difference.
Got it.
Okay. The problem with your argument is you're citing the incorrect foundation for making it. That's all. I'm not saying the argument itself is wrong, just that you're using two particular parts that do not apply at the state level. That is Article 1 and Article 3 courts and Admiralty jurisdiction, because the states cannot establish Admiralty jurisdiction. That's strictly in the realm of the federal laws and Congress.
But don't the state courts use that jurisdiction?
No, they use administrative jurisdiction, which is something the federal courts created a nexus for within the law. Okay. It's a doctrine created by the federal courts, but it's not set by the federal courts. It's controlled by the state as long as it adheres to certain standards, certain minimal standards that were set by the Fed.
Okay.
All right, Mitch, you wanted to ask some questions. You've been patiently waiting, my brother.
Thanks. Hey, Eddie, how you doing? I'm Mitch Melton from Washington State, from Shelton.
Nice to meet you, Mitch.
I just want to say that I've been watching you for many years and that you are very, very much appreciated in what you do, and it's very important. Well, I know that a lot of people are thick-headed about this subject and everything, and it's difficult to follow you because you are very knowledgeable on this and we're a bunch of dummies. But I want to get to what my two questions are. One is I found out about the right to travel after I've already had a Class A license. So this bit about, well, you should never get a driver's license. Well, that doesn't fit me because I already got one. But
well, yeah, but a Class A is used for what?
Commerce. Exactly.
Exactly. And you went into that knowingly and willingly so you could engage in that activity, right?
That's correct.
So you couldn't do that without that stamp of approval in the form of that license, right?
Right. Okay. But that's not what I use it for. I mean, at the time, this is my question is, I was traveling in my personal vehicle and I had my own plates on my truck that said traveler, or not for profit, I should say. And I got pulled over in Lakewood. And the guy asked me for my driver's license, and I told him that I couldn't provide that at this time. But in Washington State, under the license, you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and A is name, address, and birth date, and that driver's license is down on like item D. He didn't even ask me my name. He could have asked me my name in that. So he arrested me, and that's what they charged me for, a misdemeanor for not showing my license. So my question is, I think I've heard you say before, don't give them the license, because that's that's proof that you don't want to show them that, because that's saying that
you're waiving your rights.
Okay, wait a minute. Now I addressed this once already, not specifically this question, but the prospect of what happens when you do it. Okay. What did I tell you about a waiver of rights versus a compulsory waiver of rights?
Very true.
If he says, let me see your license, you just go, okay, here you go. That's a waiver of right. That's a knowing and willful consensual waiver of your rights.
So you have to invoke your Fifth Amendment.
Hold on. However, when you then, before production, ask, what are you going to do to me if I do not produce the license? Well, I'm going to arrest you. Ding, ding, ding. You now have a compulsory waiver of the right, and you can defend against that.
I get that.
Again, what are we doing? We're putting all liability back on them in every regard, both in the courthouse and when our interactions come across them. You see what I'm saying? Everything's going back on them because you're actually giving them notice when they're supposed to be giving you notice before even the custodial arrest starts to occur.
You see what you could have, what you could have also asked is, can you please tell me the purpose or why you pulled me over? Now, they may not want to do that until after you give them the ID, but see, this is where the conflicting federal cases come into play. You have Supreme Court case law that says that anybody that is interacting with the government has a duty and obligation to themselves to ensure that the person of the government exerting the authority actually has the authority they're claiming to invoke. All right. But at the same time, you've got case law that says the statute says you have to produce this upon demand and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, doesn't that mean the statute's in conflict with the actual federal case law that says he must show me that he is someone that is required to have this compliance and has this authority to do these things? They're at odds with each other.
Well, they could
Now,
never
their
do
argument,
that. Eddie, they could never do that because let's say I wanted to go barbecue at the park behind my house. Do I need to get that explicitly stated somewhere in the language to do so? That would be ignorant to do.
not if it's publicly accessible property, but if it's
Exactly,
if it's
but that's what I'm
someone
saying.
else's,
I
then
mean,
that's
it's
a different story.
and how I kind of put it too is the aspect of these
Now,
are
unless of course the public property specifically says that there's some reason why you're not allowed to have fire on the premises, such
okay,
as it's an oil field.
right, exactly.
Okay.
But what I like to put this in the perspective of, at least mind frame wise, and then if Shamar and Gutterso want to come on and ask the question, is I kind of put it in the aspect of this is an occupation of life. It's like it's a necessity. You can't regulate a necessity of life. Just like if I have no other way to get food, I am able to freely go hunt or fish for my food. It's a necessity of life. You can't stop traveling in that aspect. It's beyond constitutional. It's like it's a natural law.
Well, let me give you a set of questions you can ask an authority figure who's wanting you to explain why you think this doesn't apply to you. Okay.
Oh.
And they're all very simple, they're very straightforward, and they're very logical. Do I have to get a license to look at a car? No. Do I have to have a license to enter a car lot? No. Do I have to have a license to apply for credit to buy a car? No. Do I have to have a license to actually purchase the car? No. Okay. So I have every right to do all these things in relation to a piece of property that I wish to purchase and make my own. But then you are claiming I must ask for your permission to use the very property it is perfectly legal for me to purchase and own. How does that make sense? Well, it's for public safety and we got to make sure, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not the question. The question is where does the government get the right to require me to get its permission to make use of a piece of property that I own outright? Okay. Where does the government get that power? Show me the law that grants you that power. What's the one here that says you got to do this for a motor vehicle? Well, I purchased an automobile. I didn't purchase a motor vehicle. So at what point are you alleging that my private automobile became a motor vehicle?
Oh, that's a good one right there.
Right.
Hey,
That's a good one right there.
hey, Cameron, can I finish up?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, please.
Hey, my second one is I wanted to get your take on this and what this actually means. In 2005, Christine Gregoire was governor. She signed bill number 1599 into law, 100% zero nays. And it is the definition of a highway.
100% zero what?
It's a good
Zero
one.
nays.
I still didn't catch that last part.
Zero no's.
Oh, okay. Nays. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right,
And
so
it's
all
it's-
yays and no nays.
Right. So it passed 100%. And it
Okay.
is the definition of a highway. Every highway, freeway, avenue, street, avenue, boulevard open as a matter of right to the traveling
Right.
public.
Yes.
Regulation Z,
So-
Highway
yes.
50,
Well, we
1956.
talked. Yes,
So-
we talked on this earlier in the very
Yeah,
beginning.
but I wanted to get Eddie's view on this. Is that actually saying
Well,
that the traveling public can
open
travel
as a
over-
matter of right is self-explanatory. That
Talk
means
about
the
Regulation
public
Z.
has a specific right to make use of the highways. It is the type of use that is being regulated, not the use itself, but the type of use. Okay.
Right.
The one that is regulated is when the use is for the purpose of business and the generation of private profit or gain. Okay. But if it's open as a matter of right to general personal use, they cannot require you to have a license to make to engage in that use. Okay, that's the difference, and that's where all these states and all these courts have gotten this wrong, intentionally wrong. By the way, they know the fucking difference.
Yeah,
that's why they have been so careful never to decide a case where that is the actual issue under argument and review. Whether or not a right of way open to the public as a matter of right can be legally licensed to the user in order to use that right or engage in that right. They will never decide a case like that, because if they do, the cat's out of the fucking bag. And hundreds of millions of dollars a year in fines, fees, and general licensing and registration revenue is down the fucking drain. It always comes back to follow the fucking money.
Always. Yo, Shamar, Gerso, who wants to come on next real quick? I could ask a question. Y'all been having y'all's hands up a while. Gerso, Shamar.
Sure. I'll ask a question. This is a bit off topic. The last time I asked to introduce myself, I kind of went off a tangent there, almost gave my social security in underwear size. Sorry about that. I wrote down this question here just to make it more concise. So question to you, Eddie. In California, what right does a cop have when called out for a police report for a car accident when they state one of the driver broke a vehicle code, for example, making a right in a bike lane when the cop was not there, stating the driver is at fault, invalidating any help from the insurance? I'm just basically looking for directions on how to strengthen my dispute to the police report.
Well, the first thing is the police report makes a statement of fact that the cop is asserting he has personal knowledge of, if he did not qualify the statement with according to eyewitness testimony. If he wrote it into the report as if it's something he observed, then that's a falsification of the report. Okay, would it not be? Think about it logically. The cop wasn't there. The cop didn't see it, but he wrote it in the report as if it was something he personally observed without any qualification about it being testimony of an eyewitness, right?
Correct.
Okay. So the first thing is you challenge the police report as containing false statements of facts.
Okay.
The officer can't go to court and testify that that's the fact because he never personally witnessed it. The officer can testify, well, this was testimony provided by an eyewitness. Objection, hearsay.
Got it.
He can't testify what the eyewitness said unless the eyewitness is also present to confirm the testimony.
Thank you. That helps a lot. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes.
I'd appreciate your time. I'll be quick. You earlier said something about trust, so I'll try to follow up after what you said. I'm really interested to know what you think is like the middle ground of all this information, because some people in this space talk about, gaining control of your minor trust and things like that. But like I studied politics in school, and a lot of what I learned, ended up with, just what I'm doing now, which is, getting my family into tax exempt entities and just trying to run our money up through that. And, a lot of this stuff with like right to travel and even the way you kind of describe the nuance of it, it's really interesting to me, because like my mentor, he worked for one of the presidents on the cabinet, and he didn't actually believe in the right to travel and a do not detain list, but Cam and a couple other people have shown like it's really real, and they're actively doing it. So I'm really wondering what would you say is like a proper middle ground, since some of this information about like the trust, gaining control of it doesn't really make sense. It's not really grounded in reality versus some of the things like this right to travel and being able to just freely travel, and do commerce.
Okay, I don't know if you're completely finished or not, but because of the subject matter, I'm just going to stop you and say, look, okay, here's the problem. First off, there's an awful lot of presumptions floating around in what you're saying regarding trust. Who the fuck ever came up with the idea that a trust had anything to do with any of this? Okay, that's my first question.
No, you know what they be saying? You know what they be saying, Eddie? They be saying, in God we trust. On the dollar bill, in God we, and it's got an address.
You know what I say when I hear somebody say shit like that? Before God, I say, you stupid. Okay, dumbass. No, here's the thing. All right, if you look in the chat, I think I put the link in there, but yeah. All right, you'll see a link to my friend Dave Champion's website, drreality.news. You want to know how to get
No, we don't see it. No, we don't see it. And we didn't get
there because it's in the chat.
No, look where it says 2 in the chat. You'll see it says 2, and if it don't say
it says Moore Life. I don't know why it does that.
Yeah, put in meeting group chat. Yes, sir.
All right,
and
there it is. Everybody see.
Hey, one more time. Yes. We didn't get that last document either. You was talking about when you had James C. Lovett on. So you got to throw that back in there too, because I didn't see it. That's what happened last time. You should be, yeah, that's all. Because I really do want to get that, and I don't want to forget now. But then after that, we can continue with what was going on with Shamar. But I'm the same way, bro. There's like a lot of presumptions. There's no proof. We don't get a lot of answers back when we, get things from like James C. Lovett on certain codes to use, American Samoan, and then I go and send a letter directly over to the Department of State, and they're telling me, boy, you better not use that. And there's no comments on the person's YouTube to be able to comment. It's just crazy, bro. It'd be all over the place. And yeah, it's kind of weird to me in that aspect. I really try to make sure that everything that we do, don't take someone's word for it. You need to find out first. So if you're going to send something to the Department of State that you're filing, why not ask them about what you're going to be filing first? Like, wouldn't that be the most logical thing? Because they answer back. They letterhead and all. You're good to go. You're getting an answer back from someone. And that's what I think a lot of people need to start understanding, just utilizing what they are. They are public servants, period.
Can you get this, please?
Okay.
Email that to me.
I put the document back in the general chat for everybody. I also put the link to Dave's website in there. If you will go to drreality.news, and if you will look at that and get the book Income Tax Shattering the Myths, what you will have is the most comprehensive study on the federal tax laws that exist today.
For you, Sam.
You will have a collection of every statute, every Treasury decision, every court case that tells you that American citizens do not and never have had to pay or owe any kind of income tax if they are living and working entirely within the United States of America, period. Okay? You want to understand how to not pay taxes? You don't need a fucking trust or tax exempt entity that can wind up in tax trouble at some point because it broke the fucking law in some form or fashion. You just need to know who the fuck you are and who they actually made the tax code for. And one is not equal to the other.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate you. Nope, let's stop it there.
The same thing applies to all the stuff we've discussed today when it comes to transportation law. Same shit.
Yep.
Okay. It was not written for you, but they have done their damnedest to make the interpretation appear as if it is you.
Right.
That's all.
Yep. Danny, go ahead, brother.
Back to the issue of the trust. Hang on. Let me finish the thing with the trust. The trust is not necessary, in my view. I see no reason for it. I see no legal protection it can possibly offer you in relation to the subjects you brought up under them, okay? Under the discussion of it. Either you have a nexus that requires you to abide by the regulations or you don't. A trust does nothing to prove or disprove or protect against that nexus.
Right.
It's either there or it's not.
Right.
Period.
Right.
If it's there, you have a duty and obligation under the regulations and laws that apply. If it's not there, it doesn't fucking matter to you.
Facts. I'm telling you, bro. That's what it is, man. People really have to start realizing that. It's like they can't get over the fact of knowing who they are, Eddie. That is the biggest problem that we have. People just can't get over that hump. They're still just feeling as though they have something lingering above them to control them.
Well,
It's
that's
like-
because
it's crazy to me.
they lack several foundational understandings. One is who they are. The other is what is being done and who is doing it and what authority they have to do it, and thus who they can apply it to, and whether or not you wish to create the nexus that either allows or doesn't allow it to be applied to you. Those are the understandings 99.9% of the people living in America today lack. And those who have come to the realization that there's something wrong are relying upon a shit ton of idiots and misinformation propagated by those idiots to try and reach a conclusion and a means of avoiding the very things they're talking about. Okay? What is the worst way to avoid a hand grenade?
Stay away.
The worst way, he said, to avoid it.
Yeah, not pull the pin.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's the best way to avoid it. What's the worst way?
To pull it.
To catch the motherfucker and hold it when it's thrown at you.
God, that's what they do. A hot
That's a
potato.
good analogy.
Okay. So what they do is they take their regulatory hand grenade, they pull the pin and lob it at you, and you catch the motherfucker and go, what am I supposed to do with this?